Deadpool movies have never really been about the plot per se, but with Deadpool and Wolverine going in deep on dimension hopping, world-altering, 25-year franchise lore, there's bound to be some questions. These are the ones that stuck out to us the most. The plot of Deadpool and Wolverine kicks off when Wade is informed by Mr. Paradox that his universe is going to be destroyed. Why would this happen? Because the hero known as Wolverine was an anchor being, and his death at the end of 2017's Logan destabilized Wade's universe. In the MCU, a universe apparently can't exist without an anchor being. As the name implies, an anchor being is an individual who acts as a central force in maintaining a universe's equilibrium. While this destabilization usually takes thousands of years to destroy a universe, Paradox has a machine that will prune the universe in less than 72 hours. After Wade hears this, he goes to dig up Logan's corpse, only to find that, despite his healing factor, the Logan from Logan is indeed dead and gone. However, this brings up a huge problem with the timeline as established in the films. It's explicitly stated in Deadpool and Wolverine that it begins in 2018, and then has a 6-year time jump, setting it firmly in 2024. But Logan was set in a post-apocalyptic and mutantless 2029. So how could his death have affected Wade's universe if he wouldn't actually be dead for another 5 years? The timeline simply doesn't add up. While it's most likely the case that the Deadpool Prime scene in Deadpool and Wolverine is meant to be the same Wade Wilson from 2016's Deadpool and 2018's Deadpool 2, there are still other contradictions that make that possibility potentially unlikely. Even weirder, some of the inconsistencies might be clues that this is not actually the same Wade from the previous live-action films. One such example is the appearance of an alive and well Shatterstar, who is seen showing up to Wade's surprise birthday party that bookends the film. The alien from the planet Mojo World, whose power is that he's, quote, better than you at everything, met a grisly end alongside his X-Force teammates when he fell into the rotating blades of a helicopter, splattering green blood all over the place.
Well, I guess we found something you're not better at.
While this incident is indeed referenced in Deadpool and Wolverine by Deadpool himself, is it possible that the event could have happened differently in this universe? While in the comics, Shatterstar has some regeneration abilities, but there's no reference to this in the movies. Maybe when Wade went back in time to save Peter, he also managed to guide Shatterstar away from the spinning blades. Based on what Deadpool said after Shatterstar's death, though, that would mean he had quite the change of heart.
Bad news is, the whole team is dead. The good news is, I don't think anyone's gonna miss Shatterstar. He was a bit of a prick.
In the middle of Deadpool and Wolverine, it's revealed that Mr. Paradox's plan to use his so-called Time Ripper to quicken the destruction of Wade's world was not authorized by the actual higher-ups of the Time Variance Authority. It's at this point where Wade realizes that Paradox is working rogue under the authority's nose, in an attempt to usurp their leadership. However, while Paradox was still pretending that his plan had been approved, he captured Wade, told him that he's planning on destroying his universe, and expected that to go over just fine. So if Paradox's plan was indeed a clandestine operation, why did he risk everything by getting Deadpool geared up and righteously angry? Sure, there was arrogance on the part of Mr. Paradox that Deadpool would rather be in the Avengers than save his crappy life as a single-car salesman, but it still seems an unnecessary risk for not much gain. While it's true Paradox mentions that higher-ups of the TVA want Deadpool around after his universe's destruction, an obvious meta-joke to Kevin Feige and the shareholders at Disney seeing Deadpool as a reliable cash cow, he might have succeeded if he hadn't brought in Wade at all. There's an interesting scene at the beginning of Deadpool and Wolverine, where Mr. Paradox first introduces Wade to what he claims is the Time Variance Authority headquarters. There he shows Wade images from the 616 Marvel Universe, aka the Sacred Timeline, including the iconic circling hero shot from 2012's The Avengers. However, since the TVA can be at all times at once, one image that catches Wade's eye is a close-up on the mighty hero Thor, visibly bloodied from some off-screen battle, tearfully holding the face of Wade himself, also bloodied and beaten, his eyes also full of tears. Wade, of course, asks Paradox about that image, and Paradox is understandably cagey. Now, was that just a joke scene? A little Easter egg to cynically cram in one more hero cameo? Or is there actually something more to it? Since all those scenes shown on the TVA screens are from the official 616 MCU verse, could it be that we're seeing a flash forward to Avengers Secret Wars? Will Wade be killed off in some glorious battle in a future superhero team-up, dying dramatically in Thor's arms? Well, we know that the footage of Chris Hemsworth as Thor is archival footage from Thor: The Dark World, so probably not. But we're dying to know why Thor is mourning a seemingly dying Deadpool the way he did Loki. Deadpool and Wolverine doesn't delve into the finer details about why Elektra, Gambit, and Blade are in the void. It's implied that their timelines were destroyed when they mention not getting a chance to fight for their worlds like Deadpool is doing. That remark could also be interpreted as being taken from their universes against their will, as they also reveal that they were unexpectedly pruned at their front doors. Deadpool and Wolverine reveals that the TVA has shady members like Mr. Paradox, who is hell-bent on destroying dying worlds to preserve the sacred timeline. He also has a dodgy agreement with Cassandra Nova, who needs to feed powerful beings to Alioth to remain in the void. Could it be then that the Fox heroes are being illegally pruned as part of the deal between Paradox and Cassandra? That's one possible theory.
Why am I here?
Walk with me.
Of course, this also is probably overthinking things. In reality, Elektra, Gambit, and Blade are in the void so that Deadpool can make jokes about the movies and the actors. This is a Deadpool movie after all, and explaining that TVA's pruning logic isn't its main objective. So what's next for the others? Their heroism seemingly earns them another chance at life beyond the wasteland, with B-15 agreeing to give them a second chance, but their fates still remain uncertain. Given that their universes might have been destroyed, it's possible they've been sent to other dimensions. After all, Mr. Paradox was willing to send Deadpool to another universe before the merc with a mouth turned on him. Meanwhile, Logan is allowed to hang around with X-23 and Deadpool in their world, when it's all said and done. However, Deadpool and Wolverine isn't clear about whether their worlds were destroyed, so it's possible they got sent back to where they truly belong. Chris Evans reprising the role of Johnny Human Torch Storm is a highlight of Deadpool and Wolverine. The merc with a mouth expects to hang out with Captain America when he sees him, only to discover that it's the guy from the maligned Fox franchise. That said, why is Johnny Storm in the void?
You guys, hey, you are never gonna believe what just happened to me.
The 2000s Fantastic Four movies were critically panned, making its characters the ideal candidates to facilitate some of the multiversal madness in a wacky comedy like Deadpool and Wolverine. However, the Human Torch is the only member of the iconic superhero team to be found in the void, and we never learn what happened to the rest of his squad. Were they also pruned and disposed of in the Purgatory dimension? If they weren't, surely a scientist as smart as Reed Richards would have found a way to save his friend from the wasteland? Chris Evans has said he has fond memories of playing Johnny Storm, so it's cool that he got to enjoy one more turn at the role. Unfortunately, Cassandra Nova made sure that he went out in a bit of a blaze of glory. Deadpool and Wolverine spends a lot of its runtime in the void as B-15 makes doe eyes at Pete, the honorary Deadpool. So it's understandable to expect the God of Stories to drop in and address the mess they end up making. While the film does have a load of wild cameos, one person that doesn't make the guest list is Tom Hiddleston's Loki, probably because he's too busy keeping a hold on the other bajillion timelines he saved at the end of Loki Season 2. That doesn't mean the encounter won't happen though. We've already seen Wade cross paths with another Norse god after all. Mr. Paradox explains that the quick clip of Deadpool dying in Thor's arms happens sometime in the future. Who's to say that won't see the return of the former god of mischief too? Sure, it might just be Deadpool superimposed into a scene from Thor: The Dark World, but if Wade is stepping in for Loki, does that mean he'll be somewhere in his future with the MCU? Wade Wilson isn't as high up on the TVA's most wanted list as some of the other ne'er-do-wells we've encountered since the agency's introduction. For quite a while, its biggest issue was He Who Remains, who was killed by Loki variant Sylvie at the end of Loki Season 1.
See you soon.
His death sent ripples through all timelines and beyond, raising the questions of how that might have impacted Cassandra Nova. Aside from Cassandra profiting off his death, there may not be a direct effect, but what about indirectly? There's no mention of He Who Remains in Deadpool and Wolverine, but his death and the revelation of his manipulation of the TVA leads to B-15 taking control of the authority. As a result, Mr. Paradox performs as off-the-books activities. This in turn leads to Wade's trip through realities and time, much to the frustration of Nova. So it's a bit of a long route to get there, but He Who Remains' death does seem to eventually have an impact on Cassandra.